they've had some of the challenges that you've had in the market. I think also on the social network, I found some real interesting statistics here, is that for this age group, 8 out of 10 social visitors to their social network block internet banner ads. So those are getting blocked. Again, the internet, for all it is very good, but we've all been annoyed by those ads also. Also, this is the DVR generation. They're blocking it, and actually they're watching it on their internet. They're watching it streamed anyways. So I also want to talk about some trends that I see happening, and most of these are on a global basis. So this is kind of just from a perspective of different things that are happening. And like I said before, the really interesting thing about this business is that the challenges are pretty much the same. They're the same everywhere. So when we look at business models, I think this was one of the biggest problems that we had to start. There were a lot of bad business models. I think the day of the network owners going to the retail environment and funding 100% of the network and then promising the retailer 25% of the dollars and then failing to meet those expectations miserably, I think those days are over. And I think that's partially part of the venue owners have to understand that they have to have a vested interest in this marketplace to make it successful. If they want to make money, they have to have something in it also. So I think one of the huge things and huge trends is specifically the retail market, where they're starting to take control of their networks. I think when you look at the large retailers, and I can tell you just from a global basis, there are 8 to 10 different retailers, huge global retailers that are now have tenders out to the market, are funding their own networks. They're funding their own equipment. They're looking to third-party ads to supplement, but they're not looking at it as their source of revenue. They're looking now to look to their marketing dollars, to how can they maximize those marketing dollars in the store and get a return on uplift in sales. That's their main focus. And they're going to look to outside companies to come in and to help them with maybe supplemental ads. But retailers for sure are looking at ways because they can capitalize that investment into the build-out costs of their stores. So there's a lot of things a retailer can do. We're also seeing other models where we're even getting an investment even from some of the media agencies, where they're looking to make upfront commitments in form of an investment to companies that are out there putting out locations. So the business models are still being worked out and being changed. And they're different based on the venue, different based on the different networks that we have. But I think when you look across globally, the same things are happening. The other one everyone always talks about to me is consolidation or attrition. There's 5 different levels of consolidation that needs to take place. There's the 755 different vendors in this marketplace that have to be shrunk down. There's 200 different ways to distribute things. But there's also the networks themselves. One of the things that we've seen happening are the networks that are looking to consolidate with each other, to work together from a merger and acquisition standpoint. But I have a firm belief that that doesn't even need to happen as fast as some feel it does. Because I believe that those networks can use technology. They can use organizations like ABDOH and OVAB to bring those networks together to, again, create the mass. Because it's all about proving that we can deliver an audience, number one, that's bigger or just as big or just as credible as the other mediums out there today. So I think with technology, we can do that. And you think of the Team Fox example, that was a great example of delivering the mass. If you look at the OVAB representation, 3 billion impressions a month. Okay? So it can be done, but it can't be done in the way Team Fox was executed. We have to work on the execution in this business. We also are going to see, before consolidation, I believe, we're going to see more attrition. So you won't see technology or vendors buying each other. You're going to see some go out of business. Because what happens is when there's a market where there's very few dollars being spent and just growing, a lot of people can stay in business because you can get one customer, one client, and you service that client. But when the real money starts to flow and the networks start to grow, the small companies go out of business. It's just part of the attrition equation. And then probably my biggest pain point, because it will be a barrier in this marketplace, is research. Nielsen, Arbitron, Gallup, TNS, all of those companies did the research for these case studies that I showed you. And all of those companies charged too much money. I mean, research was built around inefficiencies, right? TV, they made it cumbersome, they made it human-oriented, it was manual, and then they built reputation and a name, and then the agencies checked the box because Arbitron, Nielsen, and others researched it. But the internet changed all that, right? Google changed everything, right? They proved that you could get the research and the metrics for free. So I think one of the things that has to happen is that if Nielsen and Arbitron are going to become the research companies of record for digital out-of-home, then they need to revise the way that they measure the media, because it can be done through technology. And I believe if they don't do that, there's going to be a smaller research company, or there's going to be an internet-based research company that's going to take that market share from them. But I can tell you in the U.S., you take an Accent Health, which is a 10-year-old company with loads of research. They spend almost $1 million a year with Nielsen in U.S. dollars. This is a company that does $25 million in turnover. It's too much. And it's too much in a marketplace today that we're fighting for capital. So if they want this industry to move forward, they have to revise the way they do things also. So when we look at how digital out-of-home plays into this, even with mobile, even with the internet, this is our day. This is most of our days. Okay? None of this, we don't show anything about being in the home. So when we look the way we look into the future about how we buy this media, we have to look about, this is the way the Team Fox worked. You had to look about where someone is, where they start their day, where they get to in the morning, where they're at noon, and where they're in the evening. And I think what's different about this medium is we have the opportunity to change the content and change the message as they move through the day, not only the venue. Again, this is a technology-driven media. So we have to intercept people in all these different points. And it's not like the video that we saw before. It's not the distraction. It's value. We all want value. If you give a message that provides value, you give me a discount that I can download, you give me a coupon that I can go somewhere and get, I will do that. But you have to do it in the life pattern of what people are doing. Again, I think the game has changed. Like we talked earlier, consumers are driving the behavior, not the advertisement. We have to listen. So when you look at digital out-of-home and how it targets, you can take a subset and you can look at the different families. There's a very different pattern between, what the alpha, we call it in the States an alpha mama. I don't know what you call it here, but she has a very different pattern of what she does in her daily life. The Lopez family, they have a very different pattern. And then you have Tom, but Tom could be Tom Lopez on the weekend, but he's Tom the business person during the week. So by taking all that information and then going through the day and mapping it out, this is where, when you're really starting to plan buys and plan, once we get back to the planning process, this is really, I believe, why we all need to work together and why the message has to be the same across all the different networks. When you look at the statistics of stopping power, again, this is some of the research that was done by OTX for one of our partners, Seesaw. It's astounding. People notice it. It's there. And it is, and we're not even at the point of this business where we have great content. We have okay content. Content is okay right now. But if we don't change that, there's enough screens in the marketplace today, and here in this market, you'll create video wallpaper. People won't look at it. So we have to do that. We have to create good content. The other is that it's unique and entertaining. Because we literally only have 10 to 15 seconds, we can really affect and be unique. We can change. We don't have to develop a high definition 30-second advertisement. We can actually do short, targeted, 10-second clips that change. So I think we're heading toward a world, something that I call the 21st century media mix. It's really, in a way, it's dynamic. We've really changed the game in the 21st century. And I put this example. I say Burger King. There's, everyone. Their new slogan is "Have it your way." Maybe they got something right, because really the consumers are having it their way. They're drawing the media away from the traditional buys and into the new world, which again I call a 21st century mix. It's really where everything gets changed on the fly, when research is real time, when changes can be made. And that's one of the things that digital out-of-home provides everybody. So one of the things that we're really looking at, from my perspective, is that it's really changed everything. We really have the ability to do cross-platform media mix modeling and planning. We have the ability through digital out-of-home to create the one-on-one experiences. Niche is the new mass. We can deliver hyper-local, hyper-national. Okay? We call it, some are calling it mass roots, the way to really get down and talk to one person on an individual level, as opposed to a mass. It's cross-form and function. No other media is cross-form and function. What I mean by that is there's 700 digital out-of-home networks in the world today, and that's growing. There's online, there's mobile, there's all these different forms of digital media, but it also crosses the functional lines. Digital media can be direct response, word of mouth. It can be all those different things. So it's really a different world. And I think one of the most important things is when we look at how we'll plan it. I leave these 2 points: map out potential routes and start with the end in mind. You really have to understand what you're going to do and go work backwards. If you really think of the old model, it was, we've got a TV program and now we're going to figure out advertising to fill those spots. Now we have to figure out, what do we want the consumer to do? And then work backwards and say, what about the creative? You know how much time we'll save to know what the end goal is? We won't have to ever go back to the edit room again. So we really have to pre-plan. And something I believe is that content is very valuable, but the media, the campaign, the plan will drive the content, not the other way around. Content's not going to drive the plan. The plan's going to be derived through the research that's developed, the research that's brought back technology-wise, and changed. And content will follow that. So as I kind of really round up and I look at why people should invest in this marketplace, I kind of go right back down to the last one for the media people. It's really the opportunity to stake the claim. History proves first movers gain advantages. And this market's not going away. I think that we'll hear some research next that'll, for your very specific market, that will probably be, I believe, probably very positive, and I don't know what's going to be said. I can look at the research from PQ Media, which is what I use and what I think a lot of my colleagues use as far as research. And every single market has between a 15 to I would say 25% compounded annual growth rate projection over the next 5 years for digital out-of-home. And that's been revised because of the economic situation that's happened in some parts of the world. So we know it's there, and it's growing.